Yoso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho. To the Blessed One, the Lord, who fully attained perfect enlightenment, swakato yena bhagavata dhammo, to the teaching which he expounded so well, supatipanno yassa bhagavato sāvaka saṅkho, and to the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, Dhammayang bhagavantang satammang sasankhang, to these the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, imehi sakharehi yatarahang aropite apipochayama. We render with offerings our rightful homage. Satunno bante bhagava suchira parinibbutopi. It is well for us that the Blessed One, having attained liberation, Pachima Janatanukampamanasa, still had compassion for later generations. Ime sakare dukkata pannakara putte patiganatu. May these simple offerings be accepted. Amha kandi karatang hitaya sukhaya, for our long-lasting benefit and for the happiness it gives us. Arahang samma sambuddho bhagava, the Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed one, Buddhang bhagavantang apivademi. I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. Swakato bhagavata dhammo, the teaching so completely explained by him. Dhammang namasami, I bow to the Dhamma. Supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka saṅkho, the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well. Sanghang namami, I bow to the Sangha. Hannamayang buddhassa bhagavato pupappa kanamakarang karomase. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Hannamayang buddha pitutinkaromase. Yoso tathagato arahang samma sambuddho. The Tathagata is the pure one, the perfectly enlightened one. Vincha charana sampanno, he is impeccable in conduct and understanding. Sugatom, the accomplished one. Lokavidu, the knower of the worlds. Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati. He trains perfectly those who wish to be trained. Saddha Deva Manusanang. He is teacher of gods and humans. Buddho Bhagava. He is awake and holy. Yo imang lokang sadevakang samarakang sabramakang. In this world with its gods, demons, and kind spirits, sasamana brahmaning pachang sadeva manusang sayang apinya sachikatva pavetesi. Its seekers and sages, celestial and human beings, he has by deep insight revealed the truth. Yo dhammang dese se adi kalyanang matshe kalyanang pariyosana kalyanang. He has pointed out the Dhamma, beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, beautiful in the end. Sadhang sapayanchanang kevala paripunnang parisuddhang brahmacharyang pakasesi. He has explained the spiritual life of complete purity in its essence and conventions. Tammahang bhagavantang api puchayami, tammahang bhagavantang sirasa namami. I chant my praise to this. I bow my head to the Blessed One. Hannamayang thamma pituting karomase. Yo so swakato bhagavata dhammo. The Dhamma is well expounded by the Blessed One. Sanditiko, apparent here and now. Akaliko, timeless. Ehipassiko, encouraging investigation. Opanayiko, leading inwards. Pachatang veditapo vinyuhi, to be experienced individually by the wise. Tammahang dhammang apipo chayami, tammahang dhammang sirasa namami. I chant my praise to this teaching. I bow my head to this truth. Hannamayang sankha pituting karomase. Yo so supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka saṅkho. They are the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well. Ujupatipanno bhagavato sāvaka saṅkho, who have practiced directly. Nyaya patipanno bhagavato sāvaka saṅkho, who have practiced insightfully. Samichi patipanno bhagavato sāvaka saṅkho, those who practice with integrity. Yatitang chattari purisa yukani atta purisa puggala. That is the 4 pairs, the 8 kinds of noble beings. Esa bhagavato sāvaka saṅkho. These are the Blessed One's disciples. Ahuneyo, such ones are worthy of gifts. Pahuneyo, worthy of hospitality. Dakhineyo, worthy of offerings. Anjali karanyo, worthy of respect. Anuttarang punyaketang lokasa. They give occasion for incomparable goodness to arise in the world. Dhammahang sanghang apipuchayami dhammahang sanghang sirasa namami. I chant my praise to the Sangha. I bow my head to the Sangha. Handamayang ratanataya panamakatayo chewa sangveka parikitana patancha panamase buddho susutto karuna mahannavo. The Buddha, absolutely pure, with ocean-like compassion, yo chanta sutta paranyana rochano, possessing the clear sight of wisdom, lokasa papu pakile sakatakom, destroyer of worldly self-corruption, Vandami buddhang ahamadarena tang, devotedly indeed that Buddha I revere. Dhammo padipo viyatassa satuno, the teaching of the Lord like a lamp. Yo makkapaka matapeta pinnako, illuminating the path and its fruit, the deathless. Lokuttaro yo chatata tatipano, that which is beyond the conditioned world. Vandami dhammang ahamatarena tang, devotedly indeed that Dhamma I revere. Sankho sukheta payati keta sanhito, the Sangha, the most fertile ground for cultivation. Yotita santo sugatanubhodhako, those who have realized peace, awaken after the accomplished one. Lola pahino ario sumetaso, noble and wise are longing abandoned. Vandami sanghang ahamatarena tang, devotedly indeed that Sangha I revere. Itchewa me kantapi pochaneya Vatuttayang vantayatapi sankatang. This salutation should be made to that which is worthy. Punyang mayayang mama sapupatthva. Through the power of such good action, mahontu vetassa papawa siddhya, may all obstacles disappear. Ita tathagato loke uppanno arahang samma sambuddho. One who knows things as they are has come into this world, and he is an arahant, a perfectly awakened being. Dhammo jade sito niyaniko upasamiko parinibbaniko sambodhagami sugata pavedito, purifying the way leading out of delusion, calming and directing to perfect peace, and leading to enlightenment. This way he has made known. Mayantang dhammang suttva ewang janama. Having heard the teaching, we know this. Jati pi dukkha, birth is dukkha. Jara pi dukkha, aging is dukkha. Maranam pi dukkhang, and death is dukkha. Soka parideva dukkha domana supayasa dukkha. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are dukkha. Apiye sampayoko dukkho. Association with the disliked is dukkha. Piye vipayoko dukkho. Separation from the liked is dukkha. Yam pichang nalapatitam pi dukkhang. Not attaining one's wishes is dukkha. Sankitena panchupadana kantha dukkha. In brief, the five focuses of identity are dukkha. Seyatitang, these are as follows. Rupupadana kanto, attachment to form. Vedanupadana kanto, attachment to feeling. Samyopadana kanto, attachment to perception. Sankharopadana kanto, attachment to mental formations. Vinyanopadana kanto, attachment to sense consciousness. Sangparinyaya, for the complete understanding of this. Taramano so bhagawa, the Blessed One in his lifetime. Ewang bahulang savake vineti, frequently instructed his disciples in just this way. Ewang bhaka chapanassa bhagavato savake su anusasani bahula pavattati. In addition, he further instructed, Rupang anicchang, form is impermanent. Vedana anicca, feeling is impermanent. Sanya anicca, perception is impermanent. Sankhara anicca, mental formations are impermanent. Rujnanang anicchang, sense consciousness is impermanent. Rupang anatta, form is not self. Vedana anatta, feeling is not self. Sanya anatta, perception is not self. Sankhara anatta, mental formations are not self. Vinyanang anatta, sense consciousness is not self. Sappe sankhara anicca, all conditions are transient. Sabbe dhamma anattati, there is no self in the created or the uncreated. Te mayang otina mahajatiya jara maranena, all of us are bound by birth, aging, and death. Soke parideve dukke domanase upayase, by sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Dukkho tina dukkha pareta, bound by dukkha and obstructed by dukkha. Apevana mimassa kevalassa dukkha kamthassa antakiriya panyayetati. Let us all aspire to complete freedom from suffering. Jira parinipputam pitang bhagavantang uddissa arahantang samma sambuddhang. Remembering the Blessed One, the Noble Lord, the Enlightened One, who long ago attained parinibbana. Saddha akarasma anakariyang pabbajita. We have gone forth with faith from home to homelessness. Tasming bhagavati brahmacharyang charama. Like the Blessed One, we practice the holy life. Bhikkhunang sikkasa jiva samapan. Being fully equipped with the bhikkhu system of training. Tango brahmacharyang imasa kevalasa dukkha kantasa antakiriya sangvatatu. May this holy life lead us to the end of this whole mass of suffering. Jira pariniputam pitang bhagavantang saranang kata. The Blessed One who long ago attained parinibbana is our refuge. Dhammancha sanghancha. So too are the Dhamma and the Sangha. Tassa bhagavato sasanam yatha sati yatha balang manasi karoma anupatipachama. Attentively we follow the pathway of that Blessed One with all our mindfulness and strength. Sasano patipati. May then the cultivation of this practice, imasa kevalasa dukkha kamtasa antakiriyaya sangvatatu, lead us to the end of every kind of suffering. So we could continue with the same chants that we have been using for the last few times. Page 44, the 5 subjects for frequent recollection. Handamayang apinha pacha vekana patang banamase. Chara tamong hi charang anatito. I am of the nature to age. I have not gone beyond aging. Payati tamong hi payating anatito. I am of the nature to sicken. I have not gone beyond sickness. Marana tamong hi maranang anatito. I am of the nature to die. I have not gone beyond dying. Sabbe hime pi himana pe hinana bhavo vina bhavo. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. Kamma sakom hi kamma dayado, kamma yoni, kamma bantu, kamma patisarano. Yang kammang karisami, kalyanang va papakang va, tassadayado pavisami. I am the owner of my kamma, heir to my kamma, born of my kamma, related to my kamma, abide supported by my kamma. Whatever karma I shall do, for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. Evang amhehi apinhang paccawe kittapang. Thus we should frequently recollect. Handamayang tawating sakara patang manamase. Ayang kome kayo uttang padatala atto ke samattaka tachapariyanto puro nanapakara sa asuchino. This which is my body, from the soles of the feet up and down from the crown of the head, is a sealed bag of skin filled with unattractive things. Atti masmin kaye. In this body there are kesa, hair of the head, loma, hair of the body, nakha, nails, danta, teeth, tacho, skin, mangsang, flesh, naharu, sinews, atti, bones, atti minchang, bone marrow, wakang, kidneys, Hatayang, heart, yakanang, liver, kilomakang, membranes, pihakang, spleen, papasang, lungs, bowels, antagunang, udariang, undigested food, karisang, excrement, pitang, bile, semhang, phlegm, pumbo, pus, lohitang, blood, seto, sweat, meto, fat, asu, tears, vasa, grease, kelo, spittle, singhanika, mucus, lasika, oil of the joints, muttang, urine, matalunkanti, brain, devamayang mekayo, uddhang padatala, atto kesamataka, tachapariyanto, puronana sa asuchino. This then which is my body, from the soles of the feet up and down from the crown of the head, is a sealed bag of skin filled with unattractive things. Handamayang anichanu sati padang banamase sape sankhara anicca. All conditioned things are impermanent. Sabbe sankhara dukkha. All conditioned things are dukkha. Sabbe dhamma anatta. Everything is void of self. Atuvang jivitang. Life is not for sure. Tuvang maranang. Death is for sure. Avasang maya marittabang. It is inevitable that I'll die. Marana pariyosanang me jivitang. Death is the culmination of my life. Jivitang me aniyatang. My life is uncertain. Maranang me niyatang. My death is certain. Vata, indeed, ayang kayom, this body, achirang, will soon, apeta vinyano, be void of consciousness, chunto, and cast away, atise sati, it will lie, patawing, on the ground, kalingarang iwa, just like a rotten log, niratang, completely void of use, anicca vata sankhara, truly conditioned things cannot last. Upadavaya dhammino, their nature is to rise and fall. Upajitva niruchanti, having arisen, things must cease. Tesang upasamo sukho, their stilling is true happiness.
Page 55.
Handamayang para suttakatayo panamase. Para have panchakantha paraharo chapuggalo. Paratanang dukkang loke paranikke panang sukhang. The five aggregates indeed are burdens. The beast of burden thou is man. In this world to take up burdens is dukkha. Putting them down brings happiness. Nikkipitva karung bharang anyang bharang anatiya Samulang tanhang abhuiha nichato parinibbuto A heavy burden cast away, not taking on another load, with craving pulled out from the root, desire stilled, one is released. Dhammayang badhe karata katayo panamase Atitang nanva kameya napatikang ke anakatang Yatatitang pahinam tang apattan cha anakatang One should not revive the past nor speculate on what's to come. The past is left behind, the future is unrealized. Pachupanam chayo dhammam tata tata vipassati asanghirang asankupang tang vidham anupruhaye. In every presently arisen state, there, just there, one clearly sees, unmoved, unagitated. Such insight is one's strength. Acheva kichama tapang kocham yamaranang suve. Nahino sankaram tena mahasene namachuna. Ardently doing one's task today. Tomorrow, who knows, death may come, facing the mighty hordes of death. Indeed, one cannot strike a deal. Evang viharimataping ahoratam atanditang tang ve pate karatoti santo achikate muni. To dwell with energy aroused, thus for a night of non-decline, that is a night of shining prosperity. So it was taught by the peaceful sage. Spreading metta. Ahang Sukhidomi, which is on page 32. Hannamayang metta paranang karomase ahang sukhitomi niddukkhomi averomi apaya pachomi anikomi sukhi atanang pariharami sabbe sattha sukhita hontu sabbe sattha avera hontu sabbe sattha apaya pacha hontu sabbe sattha anika hontu sabbe sattha sukhi atanang pariharantu sabbe sattha sabba dukkha pamucchantu sabbe sattha latha sampatito ma vikachantu sabbe sattha kamma sakha kamma dayada kamma yoni kamma bantu kamma patisarana yang kammang karisanti kalyanang va papakang va tassadayada pavisanti. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering. and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs. So we'll settle down for meditation after having recited the virtues of the Lord Buddha, the teachings, Dhamma, and the noble Sangha, the noble enlightened beings following the Lord Buddha in their training. And then we have recited various passages about the impermanence of the body, of our life, and the reflections on the physical components of this body, which are not beautiful compared to a sealed bag of skin filled with all kinds of unattractive things such as saliva, snot, pus. Then we have chanted the reflections on the urgency of practice, which is one of the reasons why we contemplate the ending of our life, contemplate impermanence, contemplate death, contemplate aging, sickness. We contemplate these in order to create a sense of preciousness of the present opportunities that we have right now. When we have our breath, when we have our life forces apparent and experienceable right now, being able to see clearly this body, this mind, without shying away from the unpleasant parts of this life, all the suffering, all the unpleasant, painful, sorrowful experiences that we have had and that we will have. We sit contemplating that this is part of life, this is normal, and we feel a sense of being unshaken by this, being steady in the present moment, watching the breath coming in and out, but being glad to rest in the present moment, being glad to have life, being unshaken by the perspective of change, but rising life, the time of death, the time of sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair, disarming the hordes of Mara by being in the present moment, dwelling happily with whatever arises and ceases in our mind while we focus on the breathing, the life force that is coming in and out through our body, contemplating the preciousness of each moment in the light of our life being short, our life being bound up with all kinds of frustrating experiences. We sit and enjoy the sense of presence, the sense of being aware of whatever comes and goes, unburdened with the feeling of this body being difficult, not what we wish to, and not what we are enjoying, but being able to just simply rest in all the physical features, whether they are pleasant, unpleasant, and finding a place of neutral experience with the breathing coming in and out. So when we contemplate death, when we contemplate old age, when we contemplate sickness, it is an act of empowering us to see these things without fear, without frustration, without desire either to be or not to be, but simply seeing what is arising and ceasing. So we use the breath in the spirit of every breath being precious, every moment being precious, and see the arising and passing of our thoughts, our feelings, and resting in that awareness. I won't say much now, and just have another period of quiet meditation with a sense of urgency, a sense of alertness aroused by the contemplation of impermanence. To continue a little bit in explaining the reflective meditations. Yesterday we went through the 32 parts of the body, and I remember one or two occasions when Ajahn Chah in his Dhamma talks recommends before the meditation on the breath, or before starting with meditation on Buddho, to go through the whole circuit of the 32 parts 2 or 3 times. And then at the end of the meditation, before getting up, to do the same cycle again. And just now, after having chanted and then settled down for mini meditation session, I felt the contemplation of impermanence and the marananusati, contemplation of death, old age, sickness and death, is particularly important to arouse a sense of urgency and a sense of present moment, taking one's opportunity, and can likewise be very well combined with an initial kind of impulse for like a contemplation on death, preciousness of life, and the contemplation of the shortness of life, then can likewise lead to a sense of peace and a sense of being unburdened with any thoughts or any obligations, any proliferations, and coming back then to a stillness meditation, or like a meditation on the breath, for example.
अजान कह रहे हैं कि हम जो रिफ्लेक्टिव मेडिटेशंस डिस्कस कर रहे हैं उसी को आगे बढ़ाएंगे। तो बताते हैं कि अजान चाह कभी अपने हॉट पपांग में जो अनुगति स्थिति हमने 32 अंगों का विवेचन किया था, उसको 2-3 साइकिल करने के बाद फिर संघानुसति, धम्मानुसति, बुद्धानुसति करते थे, और फिर दोबारा वही 32 शरीर के अंगों का विवेचन किया करते थे। आज जब वो अजान हमको, जैसे हमने चांट किया अनिच्छा, इम्परमानेंस के बारे में, अनित्यबोध के बारे में, और उसमें मरणानुसति कि शरीर हमारा मरण धर्म है, वो सब चर्चा की थी। तो वो उसके विवरण अब अजान आज हमको देंगे।
And this little stanza that came up at the part about anicca is a very appropriate one to lead to that sense of calmness, thinking the passing away of all sankharas is something peaceful, something, the stilling of the ups and downs and the rising and falling is something peaceful, not stilling in terms of like suppressing or putting any say kind of control on it, but simply seeing it and simply watching it is a very peaceful process. Anicca vata sankhara, truly conditioned things cannot last. Upadavaya tamino, their nature is to rise and fall. Upacitvani ruchanti, having arisen things must cease. Te sang upasamo sukho, their stilling is true happiness. It's a very short verse, and being able to inwardly recite this verse while focusing on the rising and falling of the breath is a very effective way of generating a sense of resting in peace, resting in the change that is coming through the life force, the prana, the breath coming in and out. And using the Buddha's wisdom to instill that sense of everything is all right, things arise and cease, breath comes in and out. We can rest in watching, in observing, in accepting the arising and ceasing of such phenomena in a peaceful way. So this is a way of leading oneself to a sense of appreciating the nature of phenomena coming and going, and it helps one then to settle into the breath and be resting in that, just simply watching it. Shall we do a summary later, or do it bit by bit? Just
because he is not here.
Yeah, okay. Maybe you just this passage, and then so it becomes strong.
आगे अजान हमको बता रहे थे कि जब वो साइकिल पूरा हो जाता है तो फिर चित्त को शांत करने के लिए आनापानसति वगैरह कर सकते हैं। और जो हमने चैंटिंग की अनिच्चावत संखारा, बहुत शॉर्ट, अजान कह रहे थे कि बहुत छोटी सी चैंटिंग थी, लेकिन बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है कि जो सारे संस्कार हैं वो अनित्य हैं, तो तेसम उपशमो सुखो, उनका जो उपशमन है वो सुख देता है, उसके उपशमन से ही सुख हो, शांति आ जाती है। तो जो संस्कार हैं सारे, वो उनका स्वभाव ही ऐसा है अनित्य होने का, वो उत्पन्न होते हैं, समाप्त हो जाते हैं, और उनके जो समाप्ति है वही शांति हमको देती है। तो ये बात आप बता रहे थे अभी।
So using short contemplation at the beginning of a meditation session and also at the ending of a meditation session is something we can use for ourselves to get us out of the habits of thinking, out of the business of our active life, and having a sense of coming back to the essentials of the Buddha's teachings and the truths about life. And when we contemplate death, contemplate the ending of our life, the ending of life of friends and relatives, it serves the purpose for us to preciously use the time that is there and use the energy that comes from seeing the fading and seeing the cause of nature as something that gives us a sense of peace and being able to rest in what is happening rather than run away from it or be intimidated, scared of it, and just simply embracing it and using that clarity of what is happening, being able to watch what is happening without judgment and without a sense of filtering, and allowing things to happen, to arise and cease as our meditation object. And that works very, very well with then reverting to the breath, flowing in and out. And you can literally notice the rise and falling of your breathing, of your chest, of your lung, of the abdomen, and even just the energy flow through the body one can contemplate. So this is how we many times use reflections in the forest tradition, is to create a sense of urgency, clarity, and a sense of helping ourselves to not let opportunities go to waste, and be heedful in guarding our awareness. And the feeling of having that clarity and that acceptance of phenomena rising and ceasing is something we build up more and more, and it becomes like a friend, it becomes like a companion in going through life, and we can easily then at the same time sense the peacefulness of allowing things to take their natural course. As in the last part, it says, Te sangupassamo sukho, the stilling is true happiness, that sense of stilling of the rebelliousness against change, stilling of that tendency to hold on and wanting and shouldering all the heavy aspirations that we have, the heavy projects and ideas that we want to achieve and want to realize, to just simply rest. In such a meditation that we use a form of chanting, or a form of reciting a gatha, a verse inwardly, can then easily lead to a sense of peace that explains itself. It doesn't have to continue then. You don't have to constantly have the inner dialogue, tell yourself change, change, change. Once you're motivated to see change, we can rest in that and enjoy the change, and just enjoy the feeling, yeah, it's happening, life is happening, breath is happening, the breathing comes in, comes out. I love the present moment. It's not like a sensual love, but it's an appreciation of the peace that comes to being there. Just like the other chants that we chanted, they're describing it like these chants that we chant in the morning and evening chanting. They're like little Dhamma talks. Tell us like come back to the present. Pachupananja yotamang tata vipassati, like whoever sees each presently a risen state, they're just there, clearly sees. Like it's like a reminder. Don't wander in the future. Don't wander into the past. Just take it as it is, and enjoy the present moment. And of course, the Buddha doesn't just talk about well-being. He talks about like there is like the hordes of the Lord of Death are waiting there, and it's literally an image. They're trying to fight us and battle us, and they cannot win over us if we have that sense of peace and resting in it. If we rest in the present moment, what can happen to us? Whatever arises ceases, and we have this relation to becoming independent. We build up a relation, a sense of going beyond the threats of life being short, or death going to happen, pain. We can just sit there and dwell in the present moment. So this is the Padekarata Sutta, which is a very famous gatha that the Buddha teaches in various occasions. It's a series of suttas. It's obviously one that the Buddha did take a lot of, give a lot of emphasis to. It's quoted 4 or 5 times in the Majjhima Nikaya, and we can see that teachers like Lompo Sumedho, Lompo Cha, and many Vipassana teachers and teachers of present meditation courses, they use that energy of the present moment for having people feel at ease and having people feel unburdened without any worries, not only like say that we discard our feelings of say regret, remorse, or guilt, or past karma that may trouble us and, so to say, haunt us and make us feel difficult about life. It's not only about brushing these things away, but it's about an acceptance of the chance of the present moment, to feel a freshness of opportunity right when we are practicing. So when we use Marananusati, thinking about death or imagining what happens when people die, when we ourselves die, we do that embedded in this cushion of well-being in the present moment and being, say, grounded in an opportunity for being unburdened, being unfearful, and using the teachings of the Buddha, the insight into the phenomena as they arise and cease, as a guarantee that we don't have to fear, we don't have to be worried, we don't have to say make a problem out of things, we don't have to experience dukkha in that sense, that we usually experience dukkha from running away from things, being shocked, being traumatized, being intimidated, being, say, swept away by sorrow, pain, grief, despair, or anxieties. So this is a very, very important thing, is that we're not trying to be tough or heroic when we battle death, but we're actually resting in peace. And so my approach, it's an anusati, like a recollection of peace. At the same time, you see rising and falling. It's definitely meant as a funeral contemplation. It's actually the funeral gatha for the Lord Buddha himself. It's like what the Devas had to say when the Lord Buddha went into parinibbana. It's a very uplifting, very prominent gatha. It's not just an average condolences, so it's just like more or less, and it has a sense of nibbana, of a sense of like absolute peace. Te sang upasamo sukho. To have upasama anusati is one of the recollections, recollection of peace. We have a lot of skillful means in bringing these dhammas together with ourselves, and again, and the act of skillfully using the various teachings depends on us making them available in our experience. And a small gatha like this, a small chant, can actually ring a whole sense of associations with us that guide us to profound Dhamma, profound insights. It depends on us making these things present when we are using the recollection of impermanence, to have a sense of uplifting, peaceful energy of going beyond the things that are usually threatening. So, using the anicca-vata sankhara, upatavaya dhammino, upacitava nirucchanti, te sangupasamo sukho, is something that generates a sense of how nice it is to be peaceful, despite all the shortness of life, despite all the arising and falling that's constantly happening, can rest in the peace with that. Then, having chanted this a few times in my mind, I can then go to thinking, yeah, this is a funeral chant. This is the chant we use, for example, when people are coming to the monastery and there's a funeral, and we take their offerings as discarded cloth, for example, and in front of the dying body, So I can then approach the topic of what do I know about death? How does death look? How do people feel about death? How do people feel about funerals? What happens at a cremation? And it's approaching the topic of something that is unwanted, unwished for, and possibly a taboo in our own mind, in a skillful way. We recollect the peace that arises through seeing things arise and cease, being at ease with simply watching that this is natural, the rising, falling. Then thinking about or like generating a sense of peace, accessing the peace while watching the fading away of things, of sankharas, of conditioned phenomena, of all things. Then we can actually go in our mind for like contemplating what happens with this body here. Sitting here, the one that we contemplated, the 32 parts, like with the hair of the head and the skin and so forth, can imagine ourselves in a state of like possibly being, say on the merge of death, in pain, or like having say the facial expressions of an alive myself, imagining with the facial expressions of a body that has passed away, which many of us may have seen, and it could be our grandfather, grandmother, could be a friend, and then with that cushion of resting in peace, being assured that this is something that can bring us into a state of higher awareness, that we can actually face the things that are challenging for ourselves, doing marananusati with one's own life and with one's own body, which generally is a taboo. You wouldn't really talk about this, like even in a Buddhist culture, you don't confront people that directly and say you should imagine yourselves as a corpse. But the Buddha did of course like recommend these charnel ground contemplations, recommend to look at one's own body, look at other bodies in a way where they're lifeless, where they're not in a beautiful state anymore. They're swollen up or like they kind of decomposed. We know the charnel ground contemplations. Many times we just read them as a part of the explanations of the Buddha's philosophy. But to take it in and to contemplate oneself in a state like this takes a certain amount of courage. And I think we can do this if we are feeling at ease with the general feeling, this is natural, this is normal, and we get this uplift of energy. So knowing nothing is nothing is actually threatening with it. There's something we can see as a principle in everything. And even the Lord Buddha himself passed away. Even the most beloved people, they have a limited lifespan, and we can try to get the rational explanations into our way of relating to our own body, our own life. And when we contemplate death or do charnel ground contemplations, contemplating the funerals and the fact that our body is actually just a momentary, say, kind of phenomena that is like for a moment maybe it's strong and healthy, and after some time it actually becomes quite unsightly. We look at this, and then it creates a sense of what we call dispassion, like a sense of rising beyond the attraction of the usual forms and sounds and sights and tastes and odors and tangibles, all the things that we usually crave for, consume and love, and it brings us a sense of independence where we can dwell on. The mind is bigger than the physical appearances. The mind can dwell in peace, even though there's coming and going, there's birth and death. It's important to get it to a feeling of personally relating to that sense of samvega, dispassion or urgency that comes through seeing that an insight into impermanence, an insight into the perspective of time passing and life being short, brings us a sense of uplift and peace, a sense of independence. So it's actually quite closely linked to the present moment, cherishing of the present moment, to the task that we do in meditation, to breathe in and breathe out with full energy, and resting in the present, resting in the sense of whatever arises and ceases, our awareness, our mindfulness, our understanding of what is happening is beyond the phenomena that are coming and going. So many times people, of course, also in the Thai forest tradition, they shy away from contemplation of death, and you can hear so many stories of the Kruba chants, and they say having that sense of, this is a real challenge. I'll go to the charnel ground, I go to the cremation site and contemplate death, and I'm going to win over Mara, win over the feelings of anxiety and fear. And there's a very vivid account of Nompo Cha being at the charnel ground and being forced to face the fear of death. He's not actually facing death; he's feeling the fear. And it's like getting a sense of, I can go through this without nothing really happening to me. Actually, the sense of anticipation of something dreadful, the anticipation of the horror, so to say, about death. Something that if we feel that in certain situations, it's very important then to help oneself to an extra portion of energy, like say, for example, that preciousness of the present moment, the actual feeling, I am breathing while I fear something dreadful is happening. I am actually calm while there's the news about somebody has died, the news where people start lamenting and crying. I can actually be calm, I can actually still breathe normally, I can actually take this in without getting into a panic and into a shaken state. So that the presence of being resting in oneself, in the present moment, in the beauty of life as it happens, is disarming the anxiety and fear around what may happen in the future or what has happened already. The things that people make these horror movies around and play with the emotions. We just rest in a sense of natural awareness. The mic is it's kind of unpleasant to talk because it's on the edge of feedback.
You can bring the mic closer to you. The volume can be reduced.
Okay, I guess. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so, this is much better. Can you reduce the bass a little bit? Okay. So, using these very, say, tough topics of like the hardcore forest meditation ajahns, actually, it's not a big deal. It's like we approach them gently. We approach them with chants and with like the reflections that are familiar to ourselves. We're thinking about like say dreadful topics as death with a sense of peace, with a sense of yes, it's nature, fascination of like us being able to see things in a peaceful way, and rising over the anxiety and threat of things that usually people cannot take, cannot see. So it's not meant to be a hero, and sometimes in the forest tradition there is this sense of like the macho, the tougher the better, the more forceful, the more likely to get a breakthrough for ourselves. It's something we have to really be very careful about, that we take it in, contemplating old age, sickness, death, contemplating the unbeautiful sides of life in a way that we feel the preciousness of life at the same time. The preciousness of life meaning the preciousness of the present moment, and the preciousness of the energy that we need for practice, for sustaining our momentum in the practice, and taking on topics like Marananusati. In the practice in the forest tradition, it's not just a 24-hour, say, kind of exercise where you kind of circle around one topic only. It's linked to the other practices that we do. For example, just now linking the practice of like thinking about oneself in the moment of death to the sense of peace that we have while breathing in and breathing out, and being assured that this is something that is has a quality that goes beyond the emotions that we usually feel. So using anapanasati and contemplation as a pair is something that our ajahns many times recommend. Like Ajahn Chah saying, before you do before you do anapanasati, be sure to do those 32 parts of the body for a few cycles, and then at the end you come out of the meditation of the breath with again using the contemplation, using the energy that we've reconfirmed with ourselves of being watching mindfully and having peace with the breath, then to contemplate the nature of our body, the nature of life. It's an interplay of, one can say, samatha and vipassana. And vipassana, as we know, like actually means an application of wisdom. It means like to contemplate the teachings and see impermanence, see not self, and see suffering, see dukkha. It's a synonym for wisdom, one can say, and apply wisdom-based practices together with the quietness of mind and the resting, the energy that comes from resting in the observation, in awareness, in the present moment. And the combination of those two is actually something that helps not to deviate again on the path with getting too much into a state of shutting off real life experience and going into meditation as if it was say escape from all the unpleasant things and like a say kind of running away from from phenomena, and we're just basically doing the same thing that other people would do when playing music and eating sweet cakes and so forth. Just weighing up the unpleasant parts of life with something that feels more pleasant. So in one way, I think we use the quietness of meditation in order to face the unpleasant things, to see what is actually challenging and testing ourselves. Can we maintain a sense of peace and independence in our mind states while looking at the unbeautiful sides of life and looking at the challenges that usually we'd like to push away. So samatha and vipassana in the forest tradition many times are done in interchange. There's an idea of contemplating, for example, the body for a certain period of time and contemplating death, contemplating impermanence, contemplating the five khandhas, and then after having contemplated and having aroused that, say other perspective on things, and then using that energy for calming down and generating peace and being happy with the insights and the analysis, the way of investigation, having that create a sense of peace and acceptance, and then using that sense of peace and acceptance, samatha, using that energy further and dwelling on it, and just more or less like adding not much more of contemplation and being just happy with like the present moment, and being just happy with the breath, being just happy with a sense of body awareness, for example, and resting in that, and then having a sense of energy from that, and coming back to the real world straight away with like looking at what is happening, what is this body, what is the impermanent nature, what is the conditioned world like. It's an interplay of using contemplation and using quiet meditation. So for when we do these practices, it's not a fixed format that one can say you have to do it this and that long, but it is something where we find a skillful way of like employing both parts, like the quiet part of meditation and the internally active part where we contemplate things that are unpleasant to contemplate, or facing challenges of like anicca, dukkha, anatta. So Ajahn Chah many times said like he doesn't want to separate between samatha and vipassana. He says in the practice you need to pick up both. It's like picking up a piece of wood, and one side is vipassana, one side is samatha, and you have to lift it up both. But he doesn't really tell you exactly how much of this and that should you do, how much is necessary for the other. It's something we gain experience in while working with it, with those two components and aspects of meditation. Again, vipassana for us, like in the forest tradition, is not a particular technique. Vipassana is the general contemplation of anicca, dukkha, anatta. Vipassana means like applying panya, applying wisdom, investigating, contemplating, and I myself am fond of using samatized vipassana version, like through going on certain chants in my mind over and over, teaching myself while I'm sitting there breathing, while I'm sitting there chanting, while I'm sitting there reiterating the teachings. And then more or less, after having done that for a while, usually I feel very happy and just simply being there, doing nothing as much as I can. And then at some point, the activity part comes up again, and then I feel I'm right there in the topic of looking at the body, looking at death, looking at impermanence. So this is like a way of approaching practice that is like neither 100%. You got to have a focused, still mind first before you can do vipassana, and it's also not the other way around. That like don't have that still mind; it won't lead you anywhere because only vipassana is the only thing that counts. That's also not it. It's like teaching that those two kind of like support each other. Like there's a certain period in the meditation that lends itself to stilling and peace and not using the reflective thoughts. And if this period comes up and if that phase is there, one will know, one will see that now is the time just to let go and just keep doing what you're doing, just observe, just watch, dwell in the peace, and just let this happen. Whereas at other times, like it is good to start with or like to end with like deliberately using the teachings of the Buddha about impermanence, not self, and dukkha to challenge us, to make us have to swap our normal average day way of facing these topics with the wise way of dealing with them, and that feels at the same time again uplifting and peaceful. So they're interchangeably intertwined. So I've offered a few reflections. I wonder whether there are questions around this topic, and
Ajahn, I was wondering if you could offer us some advice on the use of right speech and what intention, the role of intention plays in that, especially in work environments, and sometimes where your intention and it kind of contradicts itself. Any advice you can offer us?
Yeah, it's very, very, very important topic, because when we say something, it is said, and it usually creates a whole chain reaction of things that we cannot change anymore. Once you've said something that was emotional, for example, people pick up on the emotion, not on the contents, and all the good things that you had in mind may not come through because like one spoiled it with one's emotions being what we call kilesas, anger, or like desire, or like simply not knowing and finding excuses and beating about the bush and so forth, trying to get oneself out of the situation in a sneaky way. That's the part of the delusion in speech, I would say. So one thing is, I feel the timing is so important, and to be able to just not always answer straight away is a good advice, and it saves us a lot of trouble. You know, myself as in Ratpanayachat, and that's the best thing to do is for the abbot or for somebody who's in a leadership role and has to respond to things, just to say, let me think about it. better even let me sleep over it, which sounds a bit lazy. And in the super hyperactive environment that we're in, sometimes it's not permissible. But you can do other tricks. Maybe say, I'll answer you when I come back from the toilet. That's still allowable in this day and age. But it's many times about skillful ways of stopping before one says something. And the amount of time that one has for oneself does make a difference. You have a lot of social activity and a social context all the time. Sometimes one doesn't really notice what one gets carried away with. Whereas, like, if you have some time in between of, for example, doing some sports or I don't want to say listening to music, but like it's frowned upon by semi-monastics, but like something that's contemplative and meditative and is allowable by worldly standards to be doing. What we many times do is, like, in the free time we just kind of go to the mobile phone these days, which is like actually trashing us with more input, which actually we don't need. It's maybe nicer just to sit down and relax for a moment. You can close your eyes, actually. Like some people in the metro, for example, they pull out a book or their phone, but other people just like close their eyes and just watch the breath. So having periods during the day where we can actually not do anything important, like by worldly standards, where we can just have a little break, helps us then also to be not rushing and be rushed into situations where we immediately respond. About speech that is unpleasant and speech that is slightly aggressive and so forth. Many times this happens easily when we're challenged. And of course, like if we do a lot of metta bhavana and do a lot of like deliberately spreading loving kindness, I believe it becomes less forceful, the way we react when our buttons are being pushed. You have a sense of, actually, I wish people well. Even though the direct impulse is there, we may be able to mellow it down or say it in a humorous way and say it in a slightly smiling way, even though the message may be difficult to digest for people. If one has to respond to something that is not easy and it's a problem. For example, give you an example, real life. If I get the message that we have to do something in the monastery very quickly, which is against the standards, somebody has planned a trip or so, and wants us to make something impossible possible, or so, so very quickly juggling something and rushing into some kind of quick organization, quick deal, quick response. Then many times it's just good just to wait a moment and smile about it, or like make a self-humorous comment about it. That helps a lot. You say something that is like. English people are very good with that, a sense of like humor in that situation, and it defeats the heaviness of the situation. So to be able to not directly do something that later one would regret, for example, being resting in that sense of, I'll do it in a correct way. I'll do it, but let me do it in my way. Let me use time and find out a way. That's so many times we call like patience. And just like wait a moment. And by no way should we do something that compromises our sila and even suggest it or order it. Like it so many times happens in worldly contexts that we quickly say consent to something, maybe even out of friendship or a sense of harmony, but later we regret it and we think, look, was that actually correct? Was that okay? And to be hesitant in that sense is really good. And at the end of the day, people will appreciate the person that is correct and maybe slower but correct. I mean, these are general advices, like, but to summarize, like what we do for right speech is we take our time. We try to have time for ourselves generally. We don't always have to respond to things. And we also try to have a sense of sila, virtue with ourselves, like that we know actually we're doing things correctly, we're doing things according to what is appropriate in our actions. For example, somebody tries to persuade us to cut the corners, to do something, order something which is not quite okay. Just don't go there, and like out of the sense of being afraid of the karmic consequences and having a sense of embarrassment about like an ethical misconduct, hiriotapatama. So, and then the third one is like of course to have metta, to do a lot of metta bhavana, and then the speech will be less forceful and be more likely to come up with than being in a slightly challenged way or emotional way. In discussions, it is a real test of patience sometimes to wait for the right time when, like, if there's a meeting or so, it's a real test of patience. I'm also like that. I want to say my stuff straight away. I'm sure I've got the right arguments, but to be able to wait and listen first, it's just such a beautiful thing. Sometimes there's other people in the room that have that quality, and we can actually consciously try to emulate people that have got right speech, that are capable of waiting and saying things silently, precisely. Sometimes it actually sets a standard. If there's one person in a group, in a meeting, that actually only speaks precisely as a summary what is right. I sometimes think I'd like to be that person, but I'm too restless for that, too quick, maybe even too intelligent for that, and I shoot myself in the foot and think, why did you do that? And nobody was ready for that. He could have been the cool, wise person that says the closing remarks and gets all the votes. So yeah, like, I mean, these are like mindfulness in action is difficult, but it helps. Like, the more time you have for yourself and do things like where you're not in interaction with others, like going for a walk rather than sitting in a car talking, or it's not so pleasant to walk around in Delhi, but like, what else can you do? I think have some time sitting on the sofa, just closing your eyes, thinking Bhutto, Bhutto, and then go back to the issue. And not having too many people around, like at the same time. Sometimes just simply lowering the volume is something that is very important. Just talk quietly. You know Luang Por Liam, like many of us know him. He always says, "Speak like a king." Yeah, like speak slowly with that authority of, I know what I'm saying. You're gonna follow me anyway. So you use the power of speech rather than a trivial competition for the last word. So when he speaks in the sala or so, he doesn't bother whether it's loud enough or not. He just speaks, and sure enough, people lend ear. They kind of in German you say they sharpen their ears in order to catch it. There's a certain dignity in that. So we try to emulate wise ways. Yes.
Yeah. Ajahn, since you being abbot of a monastery, you have a very big administrative role, and I'm trying to relate it in a normal householder life. Like today's life is so fast, busy. There is so much multitasking going on at one time. You have a mobile ringing, you have a Google Maps going on, and you have a car in front of you, and you have a red light in front of you. So the mind is actually confronted with 4 or 5 tasks at that single moment. And being equanimity at that moment, it gets you very perturbed at that moment. You realize it afterwards. But the point is, stay calm, don't give priority to all the 4 tasks at that moment. What would the priority be? To stay calm? If you stay calm and you have an appointment, you have to reach a certain place. At the same time, there are 4 things happening at the same time, and I'm sure these kind of situations also confront you. How would you handle the situation? How do you handle the situation? Is the calmness important, or the job is important, or?
I think you can guess. I guess the calmness is more important, and doing things in an orderly way, and just to remind oneself of that, and that the quality of what we do goes a long way. So it hinges a lot on the inner attitude of do I really want this, or am I able to let this thing wait, for example. And this is again like something that the general practice that we do is important, where we feel like actually we're not running after some particular gain or praise or so, but we're trying to do things because they're correct and because they need to be done, a sense of service, and rather than a sense of wanting or achieving or so. Yet it's overlapping. So the trick again for me is just sometimes just to have things wait. And there are situations when everything comes at the same time. I scratch my head as well and say, "Can we wait a moment?" Or I just walk away for a moment, and something, like not to do a wrong move. And at the end of the day, if there's too much of those things happening, I think this is impossible. You cannot do justice to all of these things. Then I have to readjust what I'm doing the next day, or like what I'm allowing to happen, or like say, be more restrained about what I initiate, and possibly have a day of doing less. Sometimes we can't avoid that there's so many things happening at the same time. It's almost like a karmic challenge that started so many things and they're all rushing in at the same time. Then it's more or less kamavipaka. One has initiated a lot of things, one has asked for a lot of things, one has asked for trouble, then one gets it. Have to face it somehow and do less in the future. There's kind of the whole thing about restraint. Sometimes think, is that really wise to do another project? Is it really wise to accept another invitation or another duty or so? And usually the answers itself, once one has contemplated it and thought about it, the endless chain of like an automatic chain reaction, that's where gets dangerous. So luckily, in daily life, at least in our part in the monastery, we have like inbuilt breaks, and for you in your private business, like you have to probably find those chunks of time by yourself and make sure that it's not an endless dynamic of one thing asking for the next. And whenever something comes as a multitasking with too much stuff going on, I just see it as vipaka. I've asked for it, therefore so much I gotta endure this now. And a good friend helps as well. Some people you can share things with, and also like do things together. Sometimes it's actually quite a relief. One isn't the only one having to juggle things. These are also again general things. Kind of ideally, it wouldn't come to that. Ideally, we'd have like filtered like our activities such that they're just about right, that they can be done nicely one after the other, and practically we slip into activity mode very easily. I try to get things done, and then sometimes it becomes overwhelming. So then, after having seen that, we learned our lesson and say, next time I vow to be restrained. So it's kind of general advice. Yeah.
We're running short of time. Can I still ask a question?
You can. I think Ajahn Rochano and Samani Mahapanyu will take care of the food, and then we can, after the next question, approach the food.
You spoke about charnel meditation. What is the purpose? Is it for Kamtana, or is it to break the atta, or is it for both? And is it advisable for lay person? Because when there is when you do such an extreme form, like you mentioned yesterday, the possibility of going into the negative is high. So, for a lay person who doesn't have guidance, is it a form of meditation which would be advised? Or is it only meant for monks when they have somebody to...
So this was talking about jhana now, or
Charnel meditation.
Okay. I can actually answer this for both parts. Like extreme vipassana, like the hardcore stuff, I'm also trying to cushion this, so it doesn't come as a challenge, as a feeling of have to, want to, or craving comes into. And for jhana, it's the same thing. Many times, like we have got this ideal, if I only had jhana, if I only was on the level of being on this otherworldly side of peace.
I'm talking about charnel, the dead body meditation.
Oh, I got it wrong. Okay, I got jhana in terms of charnel. Yes, okay. So erase what I've said. About it. It's nothing to do with jhana. Okay. If we don't do it in a way of pushing ourselves, but we do it as a wise reflection of like where we're at. Like for example, the charnel ground contemplations, they are helping us whenever death happens, or whenever we have to face somebody who is dying, or possibly we are afraid of our own death. So it's a very, 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 very important thing in one way. At the same time, we have to cushion it in such that we are actually feeling uplifted by undertaking these practices, and that we feel the sense of peace and the sense of this is just right for myself. And it doesn't have to be like anything that is shocking or horrifying or breaking a taboo or so. We can approach it just in a way that makes sense for ourselves. Yet when we read the Buddha's scriptures, the Buddha is really like dedicated to this topic. I've just went through my little notes about like body contemplation, for example. There is a lot of say taboos are being touched. So how to approach these taboos, that they are feeling manageable, that we feel gradually acquainted with it, that it doesn't become a shock, or doesn't become something that makes us feel subtly averse to life. So one thing is like I just mentioned, is just to rest in the present moment and be happy about the opportunities you have, like the shortness of life and the horror of samsara, even thinking about say death, hell realms, and topics which are difficult. If we approach it from the level of, isn't it good that I'm seeing this? Isn't it good that I'm realizing it? Isn't it good that I have got mindfulness and wisdom? Isn't it beautiful to see the arising and ceasing in every moment? Isn't it beautiful that I'm using my time well, and I'm not wasting time, and I'm not slipping into unwholesome things, but I'm actually cherishing the energy of mindfulness and wisdom with it. So it's a very personal thing, and using the contemplations on death, or contemplation on the loathsome side of the body, generally have reasons of not going too far, and we should be careful, like, to keep those and only use the part that makes sense for us. Say, for example, yesterday evening talking about the body parts, I think it helps a lot to approach the say nature of the body in a way of, yeah, this is scientific. These are components. Aside whether they're attractive or unattractive. Let's leave the question aside whether they're repulsive, like the Buddha says, or not, but approach it from an investigation. Let me see what this is. What is hair really? What are nails really? What is skin really? And then actually it's only a tiny bit away from the message that the Buddha actually does implement there. And that we're actually not with, that we're not just wasting our time away in a sense of being strong and fit and so forth, but we're already approaching, well, there's many components, they have to work together, we have to be supporting all kinds of aspects in our life. We can't just run for the pleasant things, consume the agreeable parts and the beautiful side of life. Or more or less like approaching it from a cushion in the middle way of seeing things coming and going in a neutral way, and then of course that lends itself to seeing, what is actually happening when the body is decaying, what is happening when there's cancer growing in the body, for example, and what is happening when say our life ends. And it's important not to be heroic about it, and not to be let's say the word macho, like the tougher the better. And some of the language of the forest ajahns is very much pushing into that direction. It may be the right thing for somebody who's into, like, say, a playboy hedonistic life or so, and needs to be told off a bit and say, look, you're walking over corpses here, like this is like not okay, or like a strong reminder. And some of the Buddha's teachings are like that, like say, for example, rise up, meditate, practice, the Lord of Death is coming, there's these four armies from every side coming, they're boiling you alive. Some of the images don't actually grab anymore, like we'd have to, in order to wake up, we'd have to use other things, say, for example, the threats of nature these days, for example, climate crisis, and the need to quickly use one's time well because it may be limited. That sense of urgency, that sense of using the present moment, using one's life force, using one's energy in a constructive way, because we know things are not going to get better, rather than painting pictures of like shocking and horror things. It's very personal. Like so, in one way, it is important to approach these topics, and and it is something we can gradually fill with meaning for ourselves. For example, when we do the chanting, it's usually a whole sequence. There's part of it, it sounds like theory. Part of it, it sounds like, sabbe sankhara anicca. We know that's a key teaching of the Buddha. We can give a Buddhist lecture on that. We can go to the university and say, the Buddha taught it like this, sabbe sankhara anicca. We can talk about sankharas, what it is. But actually our homework is to bring it back to the heart. What is it that is impermanent in the body? What is it that we can feel is suffering because of the impermanence? What it is that we're attached to? What it is that we're not able to just let go by nature? So we have to bring it home at some point. But the general feeling of like, this is a beautiful teaching, this is true, this is like insightful, is nourishing us with that and taking us to a level of like feeling perfectly normal with it, and we can approach it bit by bit. It shouldn't be done in a way that is shocking. It shouldn't be done in a way of confronting people, in a way that is off-putting or like making people feel averse. Just like the Buddha was changing from asubha kammatthana, from the contemplation of the loathsomeness of the body, to anapanasati, after he saw that the monks were starting to kill each other and kill themselves. That's a good reminder. Yet, if one reads, for example, the Sutta Nipata, there's so much about like, you gotta wake up, you gotta see the Lord of Death, you have to see the world as empty, you have to see, you have to more or less like not be heedless and don't waste your time. If we approach it from that energy level, let it arouse energy in our present life. Let us not be lazy. Let us not sit there, watch TV, Facebook, and then be surprised if suddenly there's a diagnosis of whatever, cancer, diabetes, and other things. Or so that would be my advice, to see it from the level of, is it arousing energy? Is it arousing life force, not in a way of clinging to life, but like in a way of using the time? Not fatalist, pessimistic way of seeing things. I can talk about it again like this afternoon then, because the whole contemplation is not just a single topic. The Buddha then didn't just only contemplate death. The whole context of using these very direct teachings is embedded in a practice of like sila, doing wholesome deeds, doing acts of loving kindness, having a social context, being in a situation where we also experience peace through meditating and having a sense of resting by restraint, like not constantly being agitated and constantly running. So basically, it's a package deal with a lot of wholesome things, buffering, cushioning them, and in meditation, similarly, like to have a sense of good energy coming from looking at the preciousness of life, rather than as like negativity coming from thinking, wow, we're mortal, I'm doomed. The Buddha's many times warned about fatalistic ways of seeing things, and this is the whole key, is like it's in our hands to get the right angle on life and live in a dreadful situation actually of samsara, where there's like heaven and hell constantly chasing each other. The round of rebirth is not a fun thing, not a pleasant thing. So, but we're in it, and we have to come to terms with it. And we can see some people do have the good fortune to be grounded in the sense of yes, I can see through that. Yes, I can be independent of the dangers of it, and I can uplift myself. other peoples have got somehow in a phase like where everything gets too difficult, too challenging, and they might need more uplift, positive meditation. So, for example, then using Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Sanghanusati, or like Metta Bhavana, and doing acts of loving kindness in the hidden and the open, doing charitable things, and working on the level of building up a good karmic foundation, in the sense that all of us in one way or the other are privileged already, but in terms of the mental provisions it takes to face dukkha, we differ a lot. So we have to build up that sense of mental capacity and cherishing the good energy that comes from looking at even unpleasant things. Thanks for asking that. It's a important thing, and many times even monks are not like constantly holy people that are free from kilesas. We'd all be arahants if we were free from kilesas, beyond already floating on cloud number 9. We also have to keep ourselves motivated, and we have to keep ourselves wholesome. There's a lot of say challenges involved, like going to the forest, and we're not like Luang Pu Man, we're not like Luang Po Cha, we're not putting our life on the line, we're actually afraid. So we have to live with that and do things that help us see the value of what we're doing in the small steps that we can take. And do practice of sila as well. Yeah. Time to do something wholesome. Okay, we can take up the topic again. Practice continues, and now we go and receive the meal offering, and then receive the anumodana of the monks, and rejoice in the good merit made supporting an opportunity like this.